Late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn of Landon and Tamsin's suburban home. Landon stood at the living room window, his fingers drumming an anxious rhythm on the sill. At 38, he still possessed the lean build and restless energy of a much younger man, but the lines etching his forehead betrayed the weight of his responsibilities. "Tam," he called out, his voice echoing through the house. "Have you seen my blue tie? The one with the subtle patterns?" Tamsin's voice drifted down from upstairs, tinged with irritation. "How should I know? I'm not your personal assistant, Landon." Landon sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. He'd been hoping to avoid another confrontation, but it seemed inevitable these days. Squaring his shoulders, he climbed the stairs, following the sound of drawers being slammed shut. He found Tamsin in their bedroom, surrounded by a whirlwind of discarded clothes. She stood before the full-length mirror, holding up two nearly identical designer dresses. "What do you think?" she asked, not bothering to look at him. "The Versace or the Gucci?" Landon's gaze flickered between the dresses, seeing little difference beyond the eye-watering price tags. "They both look fine, Tam. Where are you going anyway?" Tamsin's reflection glared at him. "The charity gala? Remember? The one I've been talking about for weeks." "Right, of course," Landon muttered, though he had no recollection of any such event. He moved to his side of the closet, rifling through his more modest collection of ties. "Look, about the business trip next week." "Oh God, not this again," Tamsin groaned, tossing both dresses onto the bed. "Let me guess, another can't-miss opportunity that'll keep you away for days?" Landon's jaw tightened. "It's important, Tam. This deal could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." "We?" Tamsin laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. "There is no we in your precious business, Landon. It's all about you and your ambitions." "That's not fair," Landon protested, turning to face her. "Everything I do is for our future. I'm trying to build something that'll secure us for years to come." Tamsin's eyes narrowed. "And what about now, Landon? What about living in the present? When was the last time we took a real vacation? When was the last time you bought me something nice, just because?" Landon felt his temper flaring. "We can't afford to live like that, Tam. You know our situation." "Oh, I know our situation all right," Tamsin sneered. "I'm married to a man who'd rather play entrepreneur than provide for his wife. Do you know how embarrassing it is showing up to these events in last season's clothes? For God's sake, Tamsin, there are more important things in life than that." The shrill ring of Landon's phone cut through the argument. He fished it out of his pocket, glancing at the caller ID. "I have to take this," he said, already moving towards the door. "Of course you do," Tamsin muttered, turning back to the mirror. Landon stepped into the hallway, taking a deep breath before answering. "Hello, Mr. Hamilton?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, somber. "This is Charles Worthington from Worthington and Associates. I'm calling regarding your parents' estate." Landon felt a chill run down his spine. His parents had passed away 6 months ago, victims of a tragic car accident. He'd been dealing with the aftermath ever since, a process made all the more difficult by Tamsin's constant complaints about the time it was taking. "Yes, Mr. Worthington. What can I do for you?" "I'm calling to inform you that the final details of your parents will have been settled. There's been a significant development." Landon leaned against the wall, his heart pounding. "What kind of development?" "It appears your parents had substantially more assets than initially believed. Mr. Hamilton, I'm pleased to inform you that you've inherited a sum of $5 million. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Landon gripped the phone tighter, sure he must have misheard. "I'm sorry, did you say $5 million? "That's correct, sir. The funds have been transferred to the account specified in your parents' will. You should be able to access them within the next 48 hours. Landon's mind raced. $5 million. It was more money than he'd ever dreamed of having. With that kind of capital, he could finally get his business off the ground, secure his family's future. "Mr. Hamilton, are you still there?" Landon shook himself. "Yes, sorry. I'm just processing. Thank you for letting me know, Mr. Worthington. I'll be in touch if I have any questions." He ended the call, staring at the phone in disbelief. $5 million. It felt like a lifeline, a chance to turn everything around. And yet, who was that? Landon jumped, turning to find Tamsin standing in the doorway, arms crossed. He hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. But they were married, after all. They were supposed to share everything. "It was the lawyer handling my parents' estate," he said slowly. "Tamsin, you're not going to believe this, but I've inherited $5 million. For a moment, Tamsin stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable. Then, like a switch had been flipped, her face lit up with a dazzling smile. She rushed forward, throwing her arms around Landon's neck. "Oh my God, Landon, this is incredible. Do you know what this means?" Landon gently disentangled himself from her embrace. "It means we can finally get the business off the ground. We can invest in our future. Maybe even start thinking about having kids." But Tamsin wasn't listening. She was already pacing the hallway, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "We can finally move out of this neighborhood. I'm thinking Malibu, or maybe the Hamptons. Oh, and I can get that Aston Martin I've always wanted. And clothes, real clothes, not the off-the-rack garbage I've been forced to wear." Landon felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. "Tam, slow down. We need to think about this carefully. $5 million is a lot of money, but it's not infinite. We need to be smart about how we use it." Tamsin's smile faded, replaced by a look of disbelief. "Are you serious right now?" "Landon, we've just hit the jackpot. This is our chance to live the life we deserve." "The life you deserve, you mean?" Landon muttered. "What was that?" Landon took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Tamsin, I know you're excited, but we can't just blow through this money. It's an opportunity to secure our future, not to go on a spending spree." Tamsin's eyes flashed dangerously. "Don't you dare try to control this, Landon. That money is as much mine as it is yours. We're married, remember?" "I remember," Landon said, his voice tight. "But that doesn't mean we throw all common sense out the window. My parents worked hard for that money. I'm not going to dishonor their memory by wasting it on frivolous things." "Frivolous?" Tamsin's voice rose to a shrill pitch. "Is that what you think of me? That I'm just some frivolous gold digger?" "That's not what I said. It's what you meant." Tamsin jabbed a finger into his chest. "You've always looked down on me, haven't you?" Poor little Tamsin. Not good enough for the great Landon Hamilton and his lofty ambitions. Landon felt his own anger rising to match hers. "That's ridiculous, and you know it. I've always supported you, even when you've made it damn near impossible." "Supported me?" Tamsin laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? Keeping me cooped up in this suburban hellhole while you chase your pipe dreams?" "At least I have dreams beyond the next shopping spree." Landon shot back. They stood there, glaring at each other, the air between them crackling with tension. Finally, Tamsin spoke, her voice low and dangerous. "Give me your $5 million inheritance." Landon blinked, sure he must have misheard. "What?" "You heard me," Tamsin said, her chin jutting out defiantly. "Give me the money. All of it. It's the least you can do after everything I've put up with." For a moment, Landon could only stare at her, dumbfounded. Then slowly he shook his head. "No, absolutely not. No." Tamsin's eyes narrowed to slits. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, Tamsin. That money isn't just for spending. It's for investing, for building a future. I'm not going to hand it over so you can blow it on cars and clothes." Tamsin's face contorted with rage. "You selfish bastard. After everything I've sacrificed for you." "Sacrificed?" Landon cut her off, his own anger boiling over. "What exactly have you sacrificed, Tamsin? Your time at the spa? Your weekly Monty Python? How dare you?" "No. How dare you?" Landon's voice rose, drowning out her protests. "That money came from my parents. My parents, who worked their entire lives to build something meaningful. I'm not going to let you piss it all away on your materialistic fantasies." Tamsin reeled back as if she'd been slapped. For a moment, hurt flashed across her face, quickly replaced by a cold, hard anger. "You'll regret this, Landon. I swear to God, you'll regret this." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed down the stairs. Landon heard the front door slam, followed by the screech of tires as Tamsin peeled out of the driveway. He slumped against the wall, suddenly exhausted. How had things gone so wrong so quickly? He'd thought the inheritance would be a blessing, a chance to turn their lives around. Instead, it felt like it might be the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the house into shadows, Landon couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Tamsin's parting words echoed in his mind, a promise and a threat. "You'll regret this." He had a sinking feeling she might be right. The harsh glow of the laptop screen illuminated Landon's face as he hunched over his desk, the clock on the wall ticking relentlessly towards midnight. He rubbed his eyes, feeling the weight of the past few days pressing down on him. A soft knock at the door broke his concentration. "Come in," he called out, his voice rough from disuse. Marcus, Landon's best friend and confidant, stepped into the home office. He took in Landon's disheveled appearance with a raised eyebrow. "You look like hell, man." Landon leaned back in his chair, offering a wry smile. "Thanks. I feel even worse." Marcus pulled up a chair, his expression serious. "How are things with Tamsin?" Landon's jaw tightened at the mention of his wife's name. Radio silence. "She's been staying at her sister's place since our fight. I've tried calling, but—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "And the inheritance?" Marcus asked cautiously. "Still there. Still causing problems." Landon ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to do, Marcus. It's like the money's opened up this chasm between us." Marcus leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "Look, Landon, I know you don't want to hear this, but maybe it's time to consider." "Don't say it," Landon cut him off. "I'm not giving up on my marriage." "I wasn't going to suggest that," Marcus said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "But you need to stand firm. This is your inheritance, your parents' legacy. You can't let Tamsin bully you into spending it all on frivolous things." Landon nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. "You're right. I won't let her manipulate me. This money could be the key to finally getting the business off the ground." "Speaking of which," Marcus said, his expression brightening, "how's the planning for the business trip coming along?" For the first time in days, Landon felt a glimmer of excitement. "It's all set. I leave tomorrow morning. This could be it, Marcus. The breakthrough we've been waiting for." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "That's the spirit. Focus on the future, on building something real. And who knows? Maybe some time apart will help Tamsin cool down and see reason." As Marcus left, Landon turned back to his laptop, immersing himself in work. He tried to ignore the nagging worry in the pit of his stomach, the sense that things with Tamsin were far from over. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Landon stood in the driveway, suitcase in hand, taking one last look at the house. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Heart racing, he pulled it out, hoping to see Tamsin's name on the screen. Instead, it was a text from Marcus. "Good luck on the trip. Stay focused." Landon sighed, pocketing the phone. With a final glance at the silent house, he climbed into his car and drove away. The first few days of the trip passed in a blur of meetings and presentations. Landon threw himself into work, pushing thoughts of Tamsin and their troubles to the back of his mind. But on the third night, as he sat alone in his hotel room, the walls seemed to close in around him. He picked up his phone, thumb hovering over Tamsin's number. Before he could talk himself out of it, he pressed call. 1 ring, 2, 3. "What do you want?" Tamsin's voice was cold, distant. Landon's breath caught in his throat. "Tam, I just wanted to talk, to see how you're doing." "How I'm doing?" Tamsin's laugh was bitter. "Oh, I'm just peachy, Landon. Living it up at my sister's place while my husband gallivants across the country, sitting on a fortune he refuses to share." Landon felt his temper rising. "That's not fair, Tamsin. You know why I'm here. This trip could change everything for us." "Us?" Tamsin scoffed. "There is no us anymore, Landon. You made that perfectly clear when you chose your precious business over me." "I didn't choose." "Save it." Tamsin cut him off. "I'm done listening to your excuses. You want to know how I'm doing?" "I'm angry, Landon. I'm furious. And I promise you, you're going to regret treating me this way." The line went dead. Landon stared at the phone, a chill running down his spine. There had been something in Tamsin's voice, a cold fury that he'd never heard before. He dialed another number, his fingers shaking slightly. "Landon?" Marcus answered on the second ring. "Everything okay?" "I just talked to Tamsin," Landon said, his voice tight. "Marcus, I'm worried. She sounded, I don't know, different. Dangerous?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was careful, measured. "What exactly did she say?" Landon recounted the conversation, the knot in his stomach growing with each word. When he finished, the silence stretched between them. "Landon," Marcus said finally, "I think you need to come home. Now." "What?" "No, I can't just leave. This deal, forget the deal," Marcus cut him off. "I've got a bad feeling about this. Tamsin's always been volatile. But this sounds like she's planning something." Landon wanted to argue, to dismiss Marcus's concerns. But he couldn't shake the memory of Tamsin's voice, the cold fury in her words. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll book the next flight out." As Landon packed his bags, his phone buzzed again. A text from Tamsin. "Hope you're enjoying your trip. Don't worry about the house. I'm taking good care of it." The word sent a chill down Landon's spine. He tried to call her back, but the call went straight to voicemail. The flight home was interminable. Landon's mind raced with possibilities, each scenario worse than the last. By the time the plane touched down, he was a bundle of nerves. Marcus was waiting for him at the airport, his face grim. "Any word from Tamsin?" he asked as they hurried to the car. Landon shook his head. "Nothing since that text. I've tried calling, but she's not picking up." They drove in tense silence, the familiar streets of their suburb passing in a blur. As they turned on a Landon street, he leaned forward, straining to see the house. "Oh my God," he breathed. The house, his parents' home, the place where he'd grown up, it was in ruins. Windows were shattered, the front door hanging off its hinges. The once manicured lawn was torn up, littered with debris. Landon was out of the car before Marcus had fully stopped, racing towards the house. "Tamsin," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Tamsin, are you here?" He burst through the broken door, stopping short at the devastation inside. Furniture was overturned, picture frames smashed. And there, spray-painted across the living room wall in angry red letters, "Hope it was worth it." Marcus appeared beside him, his face pale. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. Landon stood in the center of the destroyed room, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. This was his home, his sanctuary. And Tamsin had done this. "I can't believe it," he said, his voice hollow. "She actually did it. She destroyed everything." Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "Landon, I'm so sorry, but we need to call the police. This is criminal destruction of property." Landon nodded numbly, still staring at the spray-painted message. As Marcus stepped away to make the call, a thought struck him. "Wait," he said suddenly. "The cameras?" Marcus turned back, confusion on his face. "What cameras?" Landon was already moving, heading for the study. "Before I left," he explained, his words coming faster now, "I had a feeling, a hunch. I installed security cameras. Hidden ones." Understanding dawned on Marcus's face. "You mean?" "Yes," Landon said, booting up his computer. "If Tamsin did this, we've got it all on video." As the security footage began to play, Landon felt a mix of emotions wash over him. There was Tamsin, her face contorted with rage, smashing vases and overturning furniture. He watched as she spray-painted the wall, her movements jerky and erratic. "I can't believe it," Marcus whispered. "She's lost her mind." Landon said nothing, his eyes glued to the screen. He'd known Tamsin was capable of manipulation, of pettiness. But this level of destruction, of vindictiveness, it was beyond anything he'd imagined. As the video ended, Landon sat back, his mind made up. "I'm calling the police," he said, his voice steady. "And then I'm calling a divorce lawyer." Marcus nodded, squeezing his shoulder. "You're doing the right thing, Landon. She's gone too far this time." As they waited for the police to arrive, Landon stood in the ruined living room, surrounded by the wreckage of his marriage. He thought of the inheritance, of all the dreams and plans he'd had. And he thought of Tamsin, the woman he'd once loved, now transformed into someone he barely recognized. The sound of sirens in the distance broke through his thoughts. Landon squared his shoulders, steeling himself for what was to come. This wasn't the end he'd wanted, but he was determined to face it head-on. As the police cars pulled up outside, Landon felt a strange sense of calm settle over him. The worst had happened, and he'd survived. Whatever came next, he'd face it with the same resilience and determination that had gotten him this far. The destruction of his home wasn't just an end, he realized. In a way, it was also a beginning, a chance to rebuild, not just his house, but his life. And this time, he'd build it on a stronger foundation. The harsh fluorescent lights of the police station cast long shadows across Landon's face as he sat in the interview room, his fingers drumming an anxious rhythm on the metal table. The door opened, and Detective Sarah Collins entered, a file tucked under her arm. "Mr. Hamilton," she said, taking a seat across from him. "Thank you for coming in. We have some questions about the incident at your home." Landon leaned forward, his voice tight. "Detective, I've already told you everything I know. My wife, Tamsin, We understand, Mr. Hamilton," Detective Collins interrupted gently. "But we need to go over the details again. You say you have video evidence of your wife destroying the property." Landon nodded, pulling out a USB drive. "It's all here, every moment of it." As the detective plugged in the drive and started the video, Landon watched her face, seeing the shock and disbelief play across her features. When the footage ended, she turned to him, her expression grave. "Mr. Hamilton, it's damning evidence. Your wife could be facing serious charges. Landon ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. What happens now? Detective Collins leaned back in her chair, her voice professional but not unkind. We'll need to bring your wife in for questioning. Given the evidence, it's likely we'll be pressing charges for criminal destruction of property, among other things. As Landon left the police station, the cool night air hit him like a slap to the face. His phone buzzed in his pocket with a text from Marcus. How did it go? Call me? He dialed the number, his friend picking up on the first ring. Landon? What happened? Landon sighed, his voice heavy with fatigue. They're going to arrest her, Marcus. The video. It's all the evidence they need. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, man. I know this isn't what you wanted. No, Landon agreed, his voice hardening. But it's what needs to happen. She made her choice. Now she has to live with the consequences. The next few days passed in a blur of police reports, insurance claims, and hushed conversations with his lawyer. Landon threw himself into the work, using it as a shield against the tumult of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. It was on a gray Tuesday morning that the call came. Tamsin had been arrested without incident at her sister's house. Landon listened to the detective's words, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. As he hung up the phone, Marcus appeared in the doorway of the temporary office they'd set up. Was that about Tamsin? He asked, his voice cautious. Landon nodded, his expression unreadable. They've got her in custody. The arraignment is set for tomorrow. Marcus stepped into the room, concern etched on his face. Are you going? For a moment, Landon was silent, considering. Then he shook his head. No, I can't. I won't give her the satisfaction. My lawyer will be there. That's enough. Marcus nodded, understanding in his eyes. What about the house? Have you decided what you're going to do? Landon stood, moving to the window. Outside, he could see the ruins of his childhood home, a painful reminder of all that had been lost. I'm going to rebuild, he said finally. Not just the house, but my life. It's time to start over. The day of the arraignment dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil in Landon's heart. He sat in his temporary office, trying to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting to the courtroom across town. His phone buzzed, a text from his lawyer. Tamsin pled not guilty. Trial date set for 3 months from now. Landon stared at the message, a mix of emotions washing over him. Part of him had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that Tamsin would admit to what she'd done, that she'd show some remorse. But the plea of not guilty, it was just one more betrayal. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Marcus, a concerned look on his face. Hey, Marcus said softly. I saw the news. You okay? Landon managed a weak smile. I'm fine. It's just, I don't know. I guess I was hoping for some kind of closure. Marcus pulled up a chair, his expression serious. Landon, I know you don't want to hear this, but maybe it's time to consider talking to Tamsin. Hearing her side of things, Landon's jaw clenched. Her side? Marcus, you saw what she did. There's no justification for that kind of destruction. I'm not saying there is. Marcus held up his hands in a placating gesture. But you two were married. You loved each other once. Don't you want to understand why she did it? For a moment, Landon was silent, considering his friend's words. Then slowly he nodded. You're right. I need to face this head on. No more running. The prison visiting room was cold and sterile, the harsh fluorescent lights casting everything in an unflattering glow. Landon sat at the metal table, his heart pounding as he waited. The door opened, and there she was, Tamsin. Her usual polished appearance was gone, replaced by a prison jumpsuit and a haunted look in her eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of everything that had happened hanging heavy between them. Finally, Tamsin broke the silence. I didn't think you'd come. Landon met her gaze, his voice steady. I almost didn't. Tamsin sat down across from him, her hands fidgeting on the table. Lana, I don't know what to say. How about you start with why? Landon said, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Why did you destroy our home, Tamsin? What were you thinking? Tamsin's eyes flashed with a familiar defiance. What was I thinking? I was thinking about how you chose your precious business over me, how you got this windfall, and instead of sharing it, you hoarded it all for yourself. Landon leaned forward, his voice low and intense. That money was my inheritance, Tamsin, from my parents, and instead of respecting that, you threw a tantrum like a spoiled child. A tantrum? Tamsin's voice rose, drawing looks from the guards. She lowered it with visible effort. Is that what you think this was? Landon, I gave up everything for you. My dreams, my ambitions. And when we finally had a chance to live the life I always wanted, you shut me out. Landon shook his head, disbelief coloring his words. The life you always wanted? Tamsin, that money wasn't meant for shopping sprees and luxury cars. It was an opportunity to build something real, something lasting. And what about what I wanted? Tamsin shot back. Did you ever stop to consider that? For a moment, they stared at each other. Years of resentment and misunderstanding laid bare between them. Then Landon spoke, his voice soft but firm. I did consider it, Tamsin, but your wants, they were never enough. You always needed more. More money, more things, more status. And I realized, sitting in that destroyed house, that no amount would ever be enough for you. Tamsin's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. So that's it? You're just going to throw away our marriage? Landon stood, his expression resolute. No, Tamsin, you did that when you destroyed our home. I'm just making it official. As he turned to leave, Tamsin called out, her voice breaking. Landon, please. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Landon paused at the door, looking back at the woman he had once loved. I know, Tam, but sometimes sorry isn't enough. With that, he walked out, leaving Tamsin and the ruins of their marriage behind. The next few months passed in a whirlwind of activity. Landon threw himself into rebuilding the house, pouring all his energy and a good portion of the inheritance into creating a home that honored his parents' memory while looking towards the future. As the trial date approached, Landon found himself spending more and more time at the construction site, overseeing the work and making decisions about every aspect of the rebuild. It was on one of these days, as he stood surveying the progress, that Marcus found him. Looking good, Marcus said, coming to stand beside him. You've really turned things around. Landon nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. It's getting there. Still a long way to go, but it feels right, you know. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. I do know, and I'm proud of you, man. You've handled all this with more grace than most people would. Landon turned to his friend, his expression serious. I couldn't have done it without you, Marcus. Your support, it's meant everything. For a moment, they stood in companionable silence, watching the workers move about the site. Then Marcus spoke, his voice careful. So, the trial starts next week. Have you decided if you're going to testify? Landon sighed, running a hand through his hair. Yeah, I'm going to do it. My lawyer thinks it's important, and I need to see this through. For my own peace of mind, the courtroom was packed on the day of the trial, a mix of curious onlookers and local media crowding the benches. Landon sat behind the prosecutor's table, his hands clasped tightly in his lap as he listened to the opening statements. When it was his turn to take the stand, he walked with measured steps, feeling the weight of every eye in the room upon him. As he swore to tell the truth, he caught sight of Tamsin at the defense table, her face a mask of regret and defiance. The prosecutor approached, her voice calm and professional. Mr. Hamilton, can you please tell the court about the events leading up to the destruction of your home? Landon took a deep breath, his voice steady as he recounted the inheritance, the arguments, the business trip. When he got to the part about the hidden cameras, a murmur ran through the courtroom. And why did you feel the need to install these cameras, Mr. Hamilton? The prosecutor asked. Landon met Tamsin's gaze across the room. Because I knew my wife. I knew her capacity for extreme reactions. I hoped I was wrong, but I needed to protect myself. Just in case. The cross-examination was brutal. Tamsin's lawyer trying to paint Landon as controlling and manipulative. But Landon held firm, his responses measured and honest. As he stepped down from the stand, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Whatever the outcome of the trial, he had told his truth. The jury's deliberation was mercifully short. As the foreman stood to read the verdict, Landon held his breath. On the charge of criminal destruction of property, we find the defendant, Tamsin Hamilton, guilty. A collective gasp went through the courtroom. Landon closed his eyes, feeling a complex mix of emotions wash over him. When he opened them again, he saw Tamsin being led away, her eyes locked on him until the last moment. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by a sea of reporters, Landon felt Marcus's steadying presence beside him. Mr. Hamilton, how do you feel about the verdict? Will you be seeking further damages? Is this the end of your marriage? Landon held up a hand, silencing the barrage of questions. I have nothing to say at this time. This has been a difficult process for everyone involved. Now, I just want to focus on moving forward As they pushed through the crowd to Landon's car, Marcus turned to him. "You okay?" Landon nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. "Yeah, I think I am. For the first time in a long time, I feel free." Epilogue. 6 months later, Landon stood on the porch of his newly rebuilt home, a cup of coffee in his hand as he watched the sun rise over the neighborhood. The house was different now. Modern touches blended seamlessly with elements that honored his parents' memory. Inside, he could hear Marcus moving about, getting ready for another day at their now thriving business. The inheritance had indeed been the boost they needed, allowing them to expand and secure major contracts. As Landon sipped his coffee, he reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain, the betrayal, the destruction it had all led him here, to this moment of peace. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his lawyer. Tamsin's appeal denied. Sentence upheld. Landon read the message, feeling a sense of finality wash over him. He thought of Tamsin, serving her time, and felt a pang of sadness for what could have been. But he didn't regret his decision. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. He turned back to the house, ready to face whatever the new day might bring. The inheritance that had caused so much strife had ultimately led him here, to a place of strength and self-discovery. As he stepped inside, closing the door on the past, Landon realized that the true inheritance from his parents wasn't the money at all. It was the resilience, the determination, and the clarity to choose a path free of toxic influences. With that thought, he walked into his future, leaving the shadows of the past behind.